So on a wet and rainy night at MetLife Stadium on Thursday Night Football between two teams who were just desperate for a win, it was the Philadelphia Eagles returning to their 2017 form, routing the New York Giants 34-13 to even up the record at 3-3. In the process, dropping the Giants to 1-5 in an underwhelming and average NFC East through 6 weeks of the 2018 regular season. Heading into the matchup, I had three keys to the game for the Eagles that really made this team dominant last year en route to a Super Bowl 52 win over the New England Patriots, obviously the first in the franchise's history. That was getting off to a fast start, efficiency on third down, and productivity in the red zone. And right from the jump on the second play from scrimmage, the Eagles are able to get off to that fast start as Camu Grugier-Hill intercepts Eli Manning, giving the Eagles some footing, getting the wheels moving. And what do the Eagles do 3 plays later? Well, Carson Wentz shows why he's one of the most talented and gifted quarterbacks in the NFL. On third down, the pocket collapses around him. He improvises. He's able to roll out to his right and just make a ridiculous throw across his body to Alshon Jeffrey to put the Eagles up 7-0, which really paved the way for not just a dominant effort through 60 minutes, but a really impressive first half as the Eagles scored 24 first half points, the most points they've scored in any game this regular season. Let's look at some of the numbers that allude to the points that I just made. Last night, the Eagles are 9 of 16 on third down and 4 of 6 in the red zone. If you look back to what the Eagles did last year, it was not sustainable how good they were on third down and how good they were in the red zone. But so far this year, they were just porous in the red zone and on third down. Coming in the last 2 games, the Eagles 3 of 9 in the red zone. For this team to go 4 of 6 in the red zone, kind of alleviate some pressure, put some points on the board, and gain some confidence, that's just huge for this team moving forward. I know the football Giants aren't having a great year. They're probably out of it now at 1-5. They're a disaster. We'll get to that in just a bit. But the Eagles needed this game to gain some confidence moving forward. If you remember last year, it was Jake Elliott's 61-yard field goal at Lincoln Financial Field as time expired to give the Eagles a win over the Giants that served as the launching pad for this team for the rest of the year. After that, they just went on an absolute tear. I think this game, after hearing what the players said yesterday, this game has that type of feeling. This win could serve as the win that gets this team going, because so far this year they've been underwhelming and inconsistent. Not because of a lack of talent, but because of the fact that this team has shot themselves in the foot. They did not do that last night, playing a clean game, and this team being excellent on third down and in the red zone was huge for this team moving forward. I want to take you back to what I thought was the key drive for this team last night. On the Giants, I believe, second possession of the game, Michael Bennett has the strip sack on Eli Manning. That backs the Giants up deep into their own territory near the goal line. And what that allows the Eagles to do is get great field position when they get the ball back, because the Giants were punting rather from their own end zone. DeAndre Carter with an excellent punt return there to get the Eagles great field position thanks to that Michael Bennett strip sack. The second drive for the Eagles, if you remember, Jason Peters and Lane Johnson were really getting manhandled, especially Jason Peters. Olivier Vernon, in his first start for the Giants this year, was just pushing Jason Peters around. There were multiple instances on that second drive where Carson Wentz had his arm hit. Eagles lucky that didn't lead to any turnovers. No turnovers for the Eagles last night. So on that third drive, what do the Eagles do? Well, Doug Peterson displays why he's one of the most underrated and skillful coaches in the NFL. He designs plays and calls plays where Carson Wentz is able to get the ball out quickly. And that was able to kind of get the wheels turning for this team. They were also able to establish the run, something that the Eagles haven't done consistently so far this year. That leads to a Corey Clement touchdown run from a couple yards out, which puts the Eagles up 14-3. So establishing the run, getting the ball out of Wentz's hands quick were essential on that drive, and really the key part of the game for me last night, because Carson Wentz has just been bruised and battered in the pocket because the offensive line has been piss poor so far this year. I mentioned that play calling and some of the play design. I think the Eagles really returned back to what made this team dominant last year: being aggressive, being smart, being intelligent. Doug Peterson taking what the defense is able to give him and kind of sensing what's coming from the opposition. And Doug Peterson was just masterful last night on a few play calls. I want to get to those right now. The play design on the Wentz touchdown to Zach Ertz, which made it a 21-6 game, was just terrific. 3 guys in the backfield, 3 tight ends on the field. Carson Wentz puts 5 guys in motion. The New York Giants were completely baffled, didn't know what was coming. Zach Ertz goes across the field to the left corner of the end zone. Wentz is able to put it on him, and that play call was just terrific. I think you're going to see some NFL coaches copy that play call in the weeks to come. Also, the Wentz touchdown to Alshon Jeffrey to make the game 31-6. Look, you see those types of plays all the time in college football on Saturday. Watch the games tomorrow. I'm sure you will see these plays called in the red zone. Alshon Jeffrey lined up at the opposite side of the field. Carson Wentz puts him in motion with 2 receivers to Jeffrey's right. And Jeffrey was being guarded there by Janoris Jenkins. And with Jeffrey going in motion, he kind of slides behind the 2 receivers in front of him. Wentz is able to take the snap from under center, fire a quick dart to Jeffrey. He was able to scoot into the end zone to put the team up 31-6. Look, red zone offense is very difficult in the NFL, okay? And I know that some of those college plays don't work when you try to go east to west, but when you call plays like that, where you really just can't defend them, that really helps these teams get going, and getting 7 points instead of 3 is obviously crucial. The Eagles able to do that last night, put the game out of reach at 31-6. Moving on, let's segue to Carson Wentz. Look, this guy is an absolute star, a bona fide top 5 quarterback in the NFL right now. And the early fabulous play of Patrick Mahomes and Jared Goff, probably 1-2 in the MVP race so far this year, has kind of overshadowed what Carson Wentz is able to be able to do this year. Carson Wentz, no doubt, top 5 quarterback and one of the top 5 playmakers at the position. 26 of 36 last night, 278 yards, 3 touchdowns, and no interceptions. He misses the first 2 games of the regular season with that knee injury that he suffered late in the year last year at the LA Coliseum against the Los Angeles Rams. That also, I think, has overshadowed how good Carson Wentz has been. And I think as the weeks have gone by, Carson Wentz is right in that MVP race. Let's look at the sample size for what Carson Wentz has been able to do this year. A lot of people were wary of him getting off to a slow start, but even in his first game back, he was excellent. And through 4 games now, look at what Carson Wentz has been able to do. Against the Colts, 25 of 37 in his first game back, 255 yards with 1 touchdown and 1 pick. If you remember that Sunday at Lincoln Financial Field on September 23rd, the weather was not ideal. It was wet, it was raining. Carson Wentz coming back from that severe knee injury. He's still able to lead the team to a win and put forward a good game. The next week, in a hot game in Nashville, Carson Wentz, 33 of 50. 348 yards, 2 touchdowns, and 0 interceptions, albeit in a loss. But you saw the flashes of what made Carson Wentz an MVP candidate last year against Minnesota last week. Again, in a loss, but you've got to look at what Carson Wentz is able to do, because you have to look at the long-term picture here. If you have a good quarterback, you're going to be able to contend for a Super Bowl. Carson Wentz last week against the Vikings, 24 of 35, 311 yards, 2 touchdowns, and 0 picks. And then last night, just masterful against this Giants team. 26 of 36, 278 yards, 3 touchdowns, and 0 interceptions. What's the common theme there? Not only is Carson Wentz able to put the ball in the end zone, but he has 1 interception all game. Yes, he had the strip sack against the Titans that led to a touchdown. He had the strip sack last week against the Vikings that led to the Linval Joseph return for a touchdown, but those plays were not Carson Wentz's fault. Lane Johnson got beat on both of those plays. You have to have the big picture mindset with all of this. You look at the sample size, you look at what Carson Wentz has done, and look at the eye test, okay? Let that play the factor in how you judge this team. And when you've seen Carson Wentz this year, looks like the guy hasn't even suffered a major knee injury. He looks like the MVP candidate of old, and he has just been brilliant. Also, the offensive line in the 3 games leading up to last night was terrible. They were getting beat all across the board. But it's not really a lack of talent. I thought it was just the fact that the Eagles are really missing a lot of assignments. In each week that Carson Wentz has played, the number of sacks has gone down. Last night, Carson Wentz hurried only, I think, 5 times. He was sacked just once. If he is able to stay clean in the pocket and get that protection, given that Alshon Jeffrey is back, the emergence of Nelson Aguilar, Zach Ertz being one of the best tight ends in the league, Dallas Goedert emerging, I think you'll see this Eagles offense return to the form of that 2017 Super Bowl season last year. Want to get to some other notes before we wrap up. I thought the cornerbacks played well. Look, in this era of the NFL, in 2018, it is extremely hard to play cornerback because of the rule changes and because of the penalties being called. Jalen Mills has gotten a ton of flack in his 3 seasons here as a Philadelphia Eagle. Has he had the tendency to get beaten on double moves? Yes, that is something that he really has not corrected. It's something that he has to work on. But he's been a pillar for this team at the cornerback position. Look, it's not easy being on an island and being in that spot where you're one-on-one with some of the top playmakers in the game, given the rule changes that cater to the offense, given the fact that penalties are being called tic-tac-wise on cornerbacks in this day and age in the NFL. It is almost an impossible job, but Jalen Mills has given this team stability. He is out there every single week, playing at a high level, excellent in the red zone, in one-on-one situations leading to pass deflections. Okay, if you look back at that Atlanta Falcons game last year, Jalen Mills against Julio Jones, if he's not able to stay strong there, we might not be looking at the Eagles winning Super Bowl 52. So I think people have to lay off of Jalen Mills. He's not afraid to come up to the line of scrimmage, stick his helmet in there, and lay a big hit. Take what you can get from that position. He's a 7th-round pick coming out of LSU. You're not paying a premium price for him. And he has been really above average at a really good price, not just what they're paying him, for what they were also able to get him in the draft a few years ago out of LSU in the 7th round. I thought Ronald Darby also played really well in the times that he was matched up against Sterling Shepard, in the times that he was going against Odell Beckham Jr. I also thought that the defensive line got home. On the road, this team has not been good for whatever reason defensively. Blown assignments, opposing offenses taking the top off the defense, but the defensive line was able to get home last night. Fletcher Cox, Brandon Graham, Chris Long, Derek Barnett, Michael Bennett, able to get consistent pressure on the quarterback, which makes the back end's job easier for the secondary. So I thought that was a big component of the game last night, because this team, dating back to last year, has really played poorly on the road. Last night, prime time Thursday night football, you saw the defense rise to the occasion against a New York Giants team that really needed a win, was in desperation mode, a do-or-die situation, and that Eagles team and defense under Jim Schwartz was able to come up with a big performance. Let's get to the Giants just real quickly before we head out. I know we're going up on 15 minutes here. The Giants are just a mess. Look, they're competing with the Redskins now for the most dysfunctional team in the NFC East. And that is not a reward or a certificate or anything you want to be recognized for, but That's what's happened, okay? And I've respected what the Giants have done throughout the years, winning 2 Super Bowls, dethroning the Patriots, blocking the Patriots from that undefeated season, and winning those 2 Super Bowl rings. I think Eli Manning and his clutch performances in the playoffs have garnered him respect and will lead to him being a Hall of Fame quarterback. But look, Eli Manning has not been good for the last 4 to 5 years. I understand you have to respect what he's been able to do in the playoffs. He is in New York sports lore for what he's been able to bring that city, okay? He is a Big Apple legend. But Pat Shurmur and that Giants organization, Dave Gettleman, they have to look right now themselves in the mirror and ask themselves, can we continue to play Eli Manning? Because he has been a lower third quarterback for the past 4 to 5 years. Okay? This isn't something that's just popped up this year. He neglects to take shots downfield. When the pocket collapses, he folds. He fumbles routinely, throws bad picks, and just doesn't seem to have it anymore. Now, this can be due to play calling, but it's also due to the deterioration of Eli Manning's play the last few years. And you look at the draft last year, the Giants decide to take Saquon Barkley at number 2. They pass up on Sam Darnold. They pass up on Josh Rosen. They pass up on taking a guy like maybe Josh Allen or Lamar Jackson. I am one of the biggest Saquon Barkley fans in the world. The guy is one of the most dynamic playmakers in the NFL today as a rookie. Okay? What he was able to do at Penn State during his career there, one of the most illustrious careers for a running back and a playmaker, I think, in college football history. He's going to be good for the next decade, barring that he stays healthy. But anytime you have the opportunity to select a quarterback, a franchise guy who can be the pillar for your franchise for the next decade plus, I don't think you can pass up on that. And I think the Giants, in hindsight, when they look at this down the road, they're going to regret that they didn't take a quarterback there with the number 2 pick. Because if you don't have a quarterback, you're stuck in the mud. If you're in mediocrity in sports, regardless of the sport, you're not going anywhere. And in the NFL, if you don't have a quarterback to get the ball to your playmakers, like Odell Beckham Jr., Sterling Shepard, Evan Ingram, when he's healthy, this is a pretty good offense, okay? The offensive line could use some work, but a good quarterback is able to make up for some of those deficiencies sometimes. You're not going to go anywhere, okay? And I think the Giants have to think long and hard about giving Kyle Lauletta a chance to start for this team. What is there to lose? 1-5. I know the NFC East is wide open. Technically, the Eagles at 3-3 are the leader in the division right now. The Giants are only a couple games back, but this is a bad football team. It's not a well-coached football team. There were multiple instances last night where guys were popping off on the sideline. Not great effort on the offensive or defensive side of the football. And I think this team just has to look at and reevaluate what Eli Manning is bringing to this team right now, because it's not good. And, you know, this team hires Pat Shurmur, who doesn't seem to have a pulse on the sideline, doesn't seem to have a sense of how to be a head coach in the National Football League. His sample size with the Browns and his resume there, really not all that impressive. And he's come to the Giants. This team has gotten off to a 1-5 start. Some news and notes there for the Eagles' Thursday night win against the New York Giants, moving to 3-3 on the season, getting back to what this team looked like last year when they won the Super Bowl. And for the Giants and Giants fans, I'm sorry, but it doesn't look good. Eagles move on to play the Carolina Panthers at home next week in a big game with playoff implications. Thanks for watching.